Good morning, friends. Well, we're right at the pointy end of Mark's Gospel this morning. We've been looking at it all this term, and really we've just got a couple of weeks left till Easter. So this is the moment where Mark really slows down his story. We get to hear a lot of detail about what happens in these last couple of days of Jesus' life. That's where we're at today, in Mark chapter 14. Jesus has just had Passover dinner with his disciples, and he's transformed it into what we now know as the Lord's Supper. He shared bread and wine with his disciples. He's given them these symbols of what's about to happen in his death and resurrection. He's shown them that he himself, by the breaking of his own body, is about to achieve salvation for them. But he's done that right as he's predicted that they're about to betray him and deny that they even know him. But then right after this meal, Jesus goes out with his disciples to the Garden of Gethsemane. And Jesus is absolutely overwhelmed with sorrow. He's having a really hard time here because he knows what's just about to happen. He knows that he's just about to go to the cross, to be arrested and killed. He hasn't done anything to deserve that, but he knows that in that moment, he's going to be separated from God the Father and the Spirit in a way that he's never experienced before. And his whole body is filled with anguish about that. He's completely overwhelmed by sorrow. It's a really human moment for Jesus. I think it's one that we can relate to. These moments of being overwhelmed, of anticipating something that we just are really not looking forward to, something that is big and serious. Jesus is overwhelmed with sorrow. So his response is to pray. He asks his disciples to pray. They do a pretty poor job of supporting him in that. But Jesus does pray 3 times. He goes off and talks to God the Father. And he says in verse 36 here, he says, "Abba, Father, everything is possible for you. Take this cup from me, yet not what I will, but what you will." Jesus has just used that cup image to talk about what he's about to do on the cross. So this is the moment where Jesus is talking to his Father and saying, "God, I really don't want to do this. I'm really anxious about this. I don't want to go through with this salvation plan if this is the way it has to happen, if me dying is the thing that has to happen." 3 times Jesus prays, "Is there any other way we can save people with me if I don't have to go to the cross?" And it seems like the answer is no. We don't know whether God actually spoke back to him or not, but it seems from what follows in the story that God's answer to Jesus' prayer here is no. There is no other way. Jesus responds to his sorrow in prayer and then with obedience. Jesus, even in the midst of his prayer, says, "Yet not what I will, but what you will." He submits his own will to God the Father's will. He says, if this is the only way that we get to save humanity and the world, then he's willing to go along with it, even though that's not what his heart's desire is when he thinks about what the cost is going to be. But here we have Jesus, willingly obedient, one who is committed to God's hope for the world and for his part in it, despite the cost that it's going to be to his very own life. And then right after these prayers, Judas comes up. Jesus is willingly arrested. He's willingly betrayed by his very own disciple. He stops his disciples, in fact, from fighting back. And we see the Lamb of God go to the cross. Friends, this is a remarkable moment for Jesus. It's Jesus in a raw human moment, one who is overwhelmed with sorrow and anguish, one who cries out to God the Father for there to be any other way to save people, but one who is willingly obedient to the salvation plan, one who is willing to carry the cost of what it means for people to be reconciled back to himself. It's a remarkable moment for Jesus. So my question for you today is, who is this man that we are meeting in Mark? Will you have faith in him? Will you follow him? And then what do we make of his example? What is our response to these moments of sorrow and despair? What happens when the things that our heart are desiring are different from what God's will for us is? How do we respond in those moments? How do we respond when it seems like the answers to our prayers are also no? Friends, peace and may the good work of Jesus feel close and sturdy with you as you chat and as you keep walking towards this Easter weekend. Blessings.